Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're diving into one of the biggest, oldest questions in psychology. A question that really gets to the very core of who we are. I mean, really think about it. What makes you, you? Your sense of humor, your talents, the things you're passionate about. Where did all that come from? Were you just born that way, or did your life experiences shape you into the person you are today? This is the heart of the huge debate we're digging into. You know, for centuries, people have basically framed this whole question as a big fight, nature versus nurture. The idea that there are these two giant forces battling it out for control of your identity. Okay, but before we can really get into the good stuff, we gotta be on the same page. Let's break down exactly what scientists mean when they talk about nature and nurture. And honestly, at its core, it's pretty straightforward. On one side, you've got nature. Think of this as your genetic blueprint, right? The instruction manual you inherit from your parents. And on the other side, you've got nurture. And that's, well, it's pretty much everything else. So let's zoom in on nature for a second. We're talking about the absolute fundamentals here. Things like your natural temperament. You know, were you a shy kid or the one running around making friends with everyone? It also covers your basic survival instincts and even the structure of your brain. And unfortunately, it also includes any genetic disorders that might be passed down. And then you flip the coin, and you've got nurture, which is just huge. It's how you were raised, the friends you had, the culture you grew up in, the school you went to, all those big life moments that kind of defined you. It's the whole world pushing and pulling on that genetic blueprint you started with. All right, so we've got these two massive forces, all tangled up from the moment we're born, which leads to the next huge question. How on earth do scientists even try to pull them apart to figure out what's doing what? I mean, it sounds impossible, doesn't it? How can you separate someone's genes from their entire life? Well, it turns out researchers have come up with some seriously clever ways to do just that. They're like scientific detectives on the case. And they've got some amazing tools in their toolkit. Take twin studies, for example. They're an absolute goldmine. Because identical twins have the same DNA, they're basically a perfect natural experiment. If they're way more alike on some trait than fraternal twins are, that's a huge clue pointing to genetics. And adoption studies? Just as cool. They let us see what's more powerful, the genes from biological parents or the environment provided by adoptive parents. Okay, so we've been setting this all up as nature versus nurture. But here comes the big plot twist. And honestly, if you take one thing away from this, it's this. It is not a battle. At all. That versus is totally misleading. And to really get why, we need to talk about a key idea called heritability. Now, this term can get a little confusing, but it's basically a way to measure how much of the differences between people in a group are because of their genes. It's not about how genetic a trait is for you personally, but about what's causing the variation we see out in the world. A classic example here is intelligence. So when scientists do those twin studies we were just talking about, they find something really, really interesting when they look at IQ scores. Yeah, the results are pretty striking. Identical twins, the ones with the exact same DNA, have IQ scores that are way more similar than fraternal twins, who only share about half their genes. That gap, you see, that's a huge sign that genetics plays a big role in intelligence. But, and this is super important, it's not a perfect match, which tells you that nurture is still a huge piece of the puzzle. Okay, let's bring this down to earth with a story. Picture this. You've got Anna and Tom. They're raised in the same house, eat the same food, grow up in the same environment. But Anna has always struggled with her weight, and Tom hasn't. So what gives? If it was all about nurture, they should be the same, right? Well, the most likely answer here is something called a genetic predisposition. Anna might have inherited genes that just make her more susceptible to gaining weight. Now, that doesn't mean it's her destiny, not at all. It just means her genetic starting line is different from her brother's. Her nature is shaping how she responds to her nurture. And this isn't just about physical stuff. It's huge for psychological traits, too. Like, if anxiety runs in your family, you might have a genetic predisposition for it. Again, this does not mean you're doomed to have an anxiety disorder. It just means you might be a bit more vulnerable. And then a stressful environment, that's nurture, could be the thing that kind of flips the switch. See how they work together? It's an interaction. So, okay, this is all really interesting, but why does it matter so much? Is this just some abstract debate for scientists? No way. How we answer this question has huge, real-world consequences. Because when we get this wrong, When we oversimplify it and just say, oh, it's all in the genes, we can end up going down some really dark roads. And history has shown us exactly how dangerous that thinking can be. This kind of twisted thinking led directly to the absolutely horrific movement we know as eugenics. This is the belief that you can improve humanity by controlling who gets to have children, promoting so-called good genes, and trying to get rid of bad ones. And that's where it gets so dangerous. It led to these awful discriminatory practices, all based on totally flawed ideas about racial superiority and what's called genetic determinism, the false belief that our genes lock in our destiny, completely ignoring everything else that makes us human. It was used to justify absolute atrocities. Which is why the most important thing to remember is this. We have to throw out the word versus and replace it with and. It's not nature versus nurture. It's a dynamic, complicated, and honestly beautiful dance between our genes and our world. Our genes might suggest some of the dance steps, but our environment provides the music, the partner, and the dance floor. So let's leave you with one final thought puzzle. Imagine identical twins, separated at birth, both get adopted into really creative artistic families. And guess what? They both grow up to be incredible painters. But one paints these super realistic classical portraits, while the other creates wild modern abstract art. So I ask you, was it their nature or their nurture? By now, you know the answer, right? It's both. Of course it's both. Their nature gave them that spark, that artistic talent. But their unique nurture, their different lives, their different experiences, shaped exactly how that incredible talent came out into the world. And that amazing interaction, well, that's what makes you, you.